speak it, we mean it, yeah, we yap like that. Yeah, we yapping about life, fake fights in the grind, from deep convos to jokes out of line. No script, no filter, just thoughts on my mind. If it's real, we say it. If it's wild, we might kick back, tap in, let the beat breathe. Everybody got opinions, we got like 3. No suits, no ties, just mics and heat. If it pop in your head, yeah, it might get speak. Hey, talk to him. Say that then. Just yapping, baby. Just yapping. Press play, we snapping. Whole crew too active. With that just yapping part time. Just yapping, part time. Just yapping. Press play, we snapping. Whole crew too active. With that just yapping part time. Just yapping. Run it up. Just yapping Parker. We in here.
What is up, everyone? It's your boy We Too Deep, and we are back with another episode of the Just Yappin podcast, the Slapping Me community shows on Tuesday or Monday nights into Tuesday morning, whenever y'all listen to it. That's on that day. Today, we are just yapping, and we have some interesting topics for sure. It's going to be a little bit more political in nature, just because of the things that sort of have sparked my interest this week to discuss. And so we'll jump in. We'll start with the heaviest of topics. And I'm checking, making sure my computer doesn't just automatically restart again. So backyard baseball, for those who don't know, I record this, just the audio. I use OBS. It's kind of like the most famous recording software for streamers, maybe other than StreamYard, but both were kind of used, at the same time, from my understanding. Anyway, I'm not a streamer, so I don't know. But I use OBS to record the audio, and this is the second take of me trying this, of recording this. I got about this far where I mentioned the first topic, and my computer is sort of on my desk. And in backyard baseball, I like to be comfortable while doing things like this. It's supposed to be fun, casual, but also my computer chair is the most uncomfortable thing to sit in, and I need a new one. But I got other things and other priorities that money need to go for, so I record this laying in my bed. It's actually working out very well for me. This cough is not working out for me, but so I record this laying in my bed, right? And hold the microphone, and we just sit here and we sort of just chat, right? And so I got about this far the first time, and I just happened to look over because I saw like a light flicker on my computer, and the computer started to restart. So, dear FBI, I know you're listening. Please don't restart my computer again when I mention our first topic. And that first topic is the Epstein files. Glances over at computer, still on. Let's keep it going. The Epstein files. Because this, I got a lot of opinions, and I'm sure a lot of you who are listening maybe have some opinions on it. My opinions are more so on the just absolute, excuse the language, this may not be a word everyone likes, the absolute retardation coming out of those in charge at the release of these files. And what I mean by that is Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Attorney General Pam Bondi, have proven themselves to be absolutely incompetent to do their jobs. Absolutely incompetent to do their jobs. And Kash Moore, as head of the FBI in a lot of different areas, have shown himself to be completely incompetent. Let's talk about the files first. Here's the thing. I fought for the release. I've been uber opinionated that they needed to be released. They needed to be unredacted. We needed to know the names and people needed to be charged. Now, that's a little bit crazy to assume that the government's going to attack itself and actually hold themselves accountable, because as George Carlin said, it's a giant club and we're not in it. So absolutely they're going to protect themselves. And so for me, at this point, the discourse, and sure, we need to go after, we need to know what's happening, but I'm at the point now where I feel like this is being used as a distraction for something else. I haven't quite figured out what that distraction is. But my larger opinion, and so what I mean by that is, I could really care less. Like, we knew what was in the files. Like, I think everyone knew what was going on. I don't want to see the photos. Everyone's like, well, we need to unredact the photos. I don't want to see the photos, right? I just don't. I don't care enough to see that level of evil displayed. I saw someone that I follow on social medias post like a video of the redacted version of the photos, and that in and of itself, it was just enough for me. Like, I don't care to see the full photos. Like, I just don't necessarily want to see that. What I want is, I want a list of people who participated in what appears to be actual crimes, whether it's sex trafficking, apparently murder, or, I don't know why Jeffrey Epstein needed, I think I saw the other day, he ordered, it was released in these files, he ordered like 18,000 gallons of sulfuric acid, which, by the way, if you don't know, that's what you can decompose a bone with. Like, that amount of level, they're putting bodies in this. Like, they're filling up tanks, they're filling up something, they're putting, like, they're discarding of bodies at this point, right? And we, in the circles that I run, the sort of conspiracy circles that I sort of have, I don't really run with them, like, they're not friends with me, but I listen to a lot of them, and I have been around, and in, there's always been the conspiracy of the elite, sacrificing people, or, and I kind of think most of us, for the most part, believe in a lot of this stuff, right? Having big parties and orgies and sexual trafficking and all of that. I think a lot of Americans kind of expect, the ruling class is evil. So what's in the files does not necessarily matter to me, because it doesn't confirm anything that I didn't already know. What I really wanted was who participated. Jeffrey Epstein, right? And so here's the logic that I use. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, the only two that have ever been arrested for this, right? They weren't trafficking children to nobody. So who are they trafficking to? Because I want them in prison as well. And really, I want them, after a fair trial, of course, hung in the city streets. That's what I really want. Like, if I was in charge and I got my way, skip the prison cell. You commit a heinous crime like this, you'll get a fair trial because you're an American citizen, right? And I do believe in due process. But you'll get a fair trial. And when you're found guilty, skip the jail cell. Skip lethal injection. Skip the firing squad. Skip all of that. I think we need to go back to hanging people in the streets, and not racially. I'm not saying, I'm not saying, because the wrong person could hear that. I'm in an interesting part of North Carolina where you go about 20 minutes to the I don't know, the west. I don't know, is it west or east? I don't know. It's a little town called Faith. You go over there and they hear that. We might have some burning crosses. So I'm not talking that way. I'm not talking about lynch mobs just going around and lynching people, like vigilante justice. I'm talking about as part of our the Wild Wild West, as part of, if you were seen doing something and you were guilty, get rid of them. There's no need to put them in prison. They need to be under the jail cell, right? Right. So I I just don't care enough about the details. I really don't. We know they're evil. But the second thing that really, there's something that was pointed out. So first off, I want the names. Until I get that, I don't really care about what gets released. Until we get names of people on a list, right? And then with that followed up, and they get perp walked into jail, arrested, and actually punished for their crimes. In fact, the government, that's the only thing you're created to do. Like, if you have my worldview, which is more religious, biblical worldview, the book of Romans, which is one of my favorite books in the entire Bible, lays out explicitly government is only put in place for two reasons: to reward those who do righteous, so to recognize those who do good and follow the laws of the land, and to reward those and to protect those, and to, right, and to make sure that they're safe, right? And second, to be the arm of justice for the evildoers. That's the only two jobs that the government has. They're not there to get themselves rich. They're not there to stock trade. They're not there to really do much of anything else other than to do things and enforce laws and to create laws that keep the citizenry under your charge safe and protected. And part of that is being the arm of justice to those who are a nuisance to society, right? And who do injustice, right? And, right, it just, if that's not going to happen, if we're not going to punish those whose names at this point have been redacted, right, who have done these who are the perpetrators of heinous crimes. Like, here's the thing, I forgot his position, but this dude in the government, I think his last name is Blanche. He walked up on a podium, excuse me, and he said, "Well, we don't want to release these pictures because of the subject matter. They allude essentially to heinous sexual crime, murder, stuff like that." And I'm sitting here, he's saying this, we don't want to release it because it's graphic. And I'm saying, okay, that's fine. Don't release the photos. And I'd be okay if they never unredact the photos. But if you have photos that show that crimes were committed, why is no one being arrested? Which brings me to the point that I really care about with this, is the complete incompetence of our federal government. We have an attorney general who every time she gets on stage, she was just in front of Congress this week and made a joke out of herself, argued with everyone, fumbling through flashcards that were written for of insults against the people that she could say, and she wasn't even very good at hiding the fact that she was fumbling through these cards. She's the attorney general. She's literally the second most powerful person in the executive branch to enforce laws. The only one higher than her is the president in the executive branch. So she goes up there, and I forgot the dude's name, who was asking her a question, and she responded something. Essentially, she was like, "Well, the Dow, we're not going to worry about these. We need to start celebrating that the stock market's up. The Dow's this, the Nasdaq is this." And whoever was asking the question started laughing, and she responded to him, "Well, I don't know why you're laughing. I heard you're a good trader." Essentially alleging that he uses his information as a congressman to do insider trading, commit crimes, by the way. And that's why his stock margin and his portfolio is doing so well. Which, by the way, may be true. I mean, Nancy Pelosi was really good at trading, apparently. Right? And there's so many, Republican and Democrats, who make so much money off the stock market while in Congress. So I'm not saying maybe she's lying, but you know what I'm saying? She's the second highest executive in the country. She's the only person in the position to arrest or to arrest, to find evidence, and to do justice if he's actually committing crimes. If she really believed what she said, why didn't she arrest him? Because she doesn't really believe it. She's just making a joke out of herself. Right? You see what I'm saying? Like, just absolute buffoonery, tomfoolery, and that's, it's almost sort of embarrassing to say, one, I align myself with the more conservative members. I don't align myself with Pam Bondi. Should have been fired. She should have never been hired. Let's just start with that. I 100% believe she was only hired because Donald Trump has a thing for blonde women. And it had nothing to do with qualifications, which is quite ironic to me, to be honest, because the people who support, Trump and his movement are very anti-DEI, right? By the way, so am I. I'm not promoting it, but it's kind of ironic that the same people who are anti-hiring, black women pilots and thinking that they only got where they are because they're black and they're black women, and that's the only reason they got hired as a pilot, which isn't true, by the way. They actually critiqued this, right? But those same people are going to sit here and applaud the Pam Bondi hiring and try to justify it to this day, where the only reason she's in the job, in my opinion, is because she's a blonde woman. And she was not qualified to do this. If we want to say we should only hire the best, we should only practice hiring practices that hire the best, most competent people for the position, I think we should start with the government first. Pam Bondi needs to be fired. Should have been fired. Like this, just on this, the Epstein thing alone. If you guys have followed this over the last 12 months, this time last year we were promised, the files are going to come out. We lined up all of these fake influencers from the conservative right on X and Twitter, Jack Posobiec, and so many of these others, and some of them came with good intentions, thinking they were actually going to get files, right? And they were just going to celebrate it, post it all over Twitter, and this, that, and the third. And then they open the files, and there's literally, they give them a binder, right? And everyone's out there taking pictures with their binder, and it's basically, from what my understanding, they were told, don't open it until we tell you to open it. But they're all walking around with their binders. They're taking photos with each other and everything with their binders, and then they're told to open it, and there's literally nothing in it. There's literally nothing. So then Pam Bondi says, she starts making excuses. I don't remember her excuse at this point, but essentially, for the last 12 months, she's been saying, they're on my desk. We'll release them eventually. The Democrats are stopping us from releasing these. Blah, 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 blah. The fact that we actually had to have a vote in Congress to release these things are absolutely insane. Just release the files. But here's the thing. If all you're going to do is say, we won, we released the files, that's not a win. To me, a win in this situation is arresting the pedophiles, and that's exactly what they are. Arresting the pedophiles who participated in crimes. Right? Everyone who was an active participant in this needs to be arrested and punished, whether it's in prison, whether it's, I promote the death penalty, but I know some might view that as too harsh, but either way, there needs to be some level of justice. And the government is the only sword. Like, again, I'm anti-vigilante justice. We have a instituted government that is supposed to be the arm of justice for the people. And they're not. They're just protecting those in power, and it's kind of gross, kind of disgusting. The second topic that I want to discuss is, again, I'm going to talk a little bit to my own conservative team here for a minute, because everyone's sort of out of their minds over Nicki Minaj sort of turning conservative. And the first thing I really just on this, like, I don't understand why are we so bad at messaging ourselves that we need celebrity, like, this is no diss to Nicki. Nicki's music is great. But, like, she's not at her peak. And to me, this just sounds, I'm just going to be honest with you. This comes off a little bit like Kanye and the such. When Kanye Kanye went crazy. But when Kanye started going super pro-Trump, I even felt then that it was just a way to get him press. And I feel a lot of what Nicki Minaj is doing. She may honestly believe what she's saying, but I don't understand why we, as conservatives, jump on to allow anyone in that does. There's no proof that she actually believes in conservative values, and maybe she does. I don't know her personally. I'm not going to sit here and say she doesn't. But it's sort of like at the Republican Conservative or National Convention in 2024, they had Amber Rose show up, and a bunch of others who, and the whole idea is we need to be an open tent, we need to be open arms and not let anyone in. And I even said then, sure, we can do that, but what happens when it turns out that they don't actually believe in conservative? Nicki Minaj doesn't represent me. She doesn't have a lot of my value. Her music doesn't represent my values. From the best of my understanding, it just feels to me that we're so bad at messaging our message ourselves that we try to hook on to anyone that tries to, any celebrity. Oh, so-and-so, right? So now we can go say, oh, you see Nicki Minaj as a Trumper? Well, Nicki Minaj can be a Trumper because she's famous. She's trying to get press. That's how I view this, right? And it may turn out that she actually genuinely believes in conservative values and is just sort of learning more about it, and that's fine. We can let her in. I'm more of a person of we need to vet who we let in the circle, right? Because one bad person infiltrating. And that's how I'm to be honest with you, how I feel about the entire MAGA Trump movement. I just feel like it's one giant infiltration into the conservative movement to make it more populist. And populism always leads to socialism, by the way. If you ever take a look at populism, right, the famous populist movements, right? Populism always leads to socialism. Because eventually the will of the people is for the government to take care of them. That's all. Populism always leads to socialism. And so MAGA is a populist movement. They're a right populist movement in that they... But if you actually were to go and ask anyone in MAGA if they believe in actual conservative values, many of them will. And I'm not anti all of people in MAGA. There are some who hold the same standard and values as me. I'm not pro Big Ten, so I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to talk to my team for a minute. Why do we grasp on every celebrity, right? And especially like Nicki sort of passed her prime. When was the last time Nicki Minaj was popular in music? I feel like this ultimately is... It would not surprise me if Nicki drops an album this year, and it's sort of red, white, and blue themed, America themed. It would not surprise me if she dropped an album this year. I'm trying to look at, when was the last time she actually dropped an album? I haven't listened to Nicki Minaj in 10 years, honestly. So, her last album was it Pink Friday? Or Pink Print? No, Pink Print just had its 10th anniversary. That was 2014. So yeah, it was, go back. Her last album that she dropped was Pink Friday 2, which was 2023. So we're talking, that was December 2023. So we're talking, it'll be 3 years this December since she dropped an album. She's not really, now, I'm not saying that album wasn't good or whatnot. I don't know. Like I said, I don't listen. Before that, it had been, 2018 and then 2014, right? And so she does take hiatuses, but she hasn't really, my point is that it's been some time since I think people really talked about Nicki in the way as like being the top female rapper, right? I just, to me, this is her trying to get some press, trying to get her name out there. Would not surprise me if she grifts off of this and drops an album. I really, it would not surprise me at all. There's a lot of money to be made as an influencer in MAGA. There really is. I can't tell you the amount of people who join MAGA just for the money. I have a product. If I, because there's a base of probably close to like 90 to 100 million people who will support your product simply because you support Donald Trump and his movement, right? I think it's absolutely insane that that's the reason you would, right? Half the time these products aren't even good either, right? So, but anyway, I just wanted to talk to my team about that. Why are we letting everyone in the tent? Right? Sometimes you're letting in wolves, and the wolves are going to attack the sheep, right? I'm going to stay on that. That's going to be my point, right? Let's go third thing. Let's go ahead and finish the political conversation, and then we'll get two topics outside of that. I told you I was going to talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. On the Slap and Me community show, I talked about the Super Bowl itself, how I felt about the game, and I said I was going to discuss the commercials, or not the commercials. There's nothing to talk about with the commercials. 90% of them were AI generated, and they all sucked, in my opinion. Excuse me. Talk about the Super Bowl halftime show. Now, I just going to go out and say this, did not watch Bad Bunny's. I had no interest in Bad Bunny. From the time it was announced, I had already said I'm not watching it, right? And so I did not watch Bad Bunny's halftime show. I haven't even gone back, have not been tempted once to even go on YouTube and watch the halftime show. Because they put it up on YouTube at the end, right, after it's performed, right? I have had zero want, desire, or temptation to go and take a look at even what happened. One, because I'm not a fan of Bad Bunny, right? I'm not of his music. So this conversation shouldn't be political, but it kind of is, and it has zero to do with Bad Bunny's politics. He can think whatever he wants. What my issue with having Bad Bunny on the show as the halftime performance is that it has 100%. It just screams I'm just going to say this. It just screams everything wrong with the thinking of the NFL today. Now, this is going to come out a little bit crazy. And I'll admit, the first time I heard someone say this, I thought it was crazy. Then they continued to explain themselves, and I agree. The NFL did a humiliation ritual to the American audience. They humiliated us live in front of everyone. Here's why. It was 100% the NFL saying, you can't do anything about this. We're going to show you to your face, we hate you. We hate your culture. We hate everything about, right? And they told the main part of the base, the main audience of the NFL to this day, does not listen to Bad Bunny, probably are a little bit more conservative, if we're being honest. A lot of, right, football fans lean that direction. And they alienated half their base, half their audience, for the sake of two things. Money, because sponsors sign on to that. But secondly, because they understood that if the half the normal NFL audience tuned out, well, that'll be, we're worldwide. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of the media going in, a lot of the talking points going in was, this is the first Super Bowl available in every country allowed, right? Like worldwide, right? And so what they're doing is they're saying, conservatives, we hate you. We don't need you as our audience. And I don't know about you, but that's not a message that I think a company should be sending out. Here's how I know they're anti their main audience. They put a show in all Spanish on a show or on a TV program that is primarily watched by English-speaking citizens of this country, right? And we're not allowed to say anything about it. I'm going to say, because I don't care. I believe if you're in America, you should speak English, right? Because I want you to imagine this, right? I want you to imagine this. If the Olympics are going on right now in Italy, right? And it's a little bit different. So I'm not going to use the Olympics because there's so many different countries that represent themselves, and you represent your culture as part of the Olympics. Let's use a different event. If I went to Italy and watched a soccer game there, and the announcer, the PA people are speaking Italian, right? I would be completely, again, I'm going to use a strong word, retarded, if I went to the people and said, "Hey, I don't speak Italian. Can you cater to me and speak English?" That's entitled and absolutely retarded. If you went to Mexico today and asked them to speak English to you, you're entitled and retarded. Like when I went to Romania back in 2012, I think it was, I had to learn common phrases in their language because it would be rude and entitled for me to expect them to know how to speak my language as a visitor in their country. Right? And so I don't understand, like we're okay with that. Right? A lot of people will spend time and say, "Hey, I'm going to go on a trip to Japan. I'm going to learn Japanese." And a lot of people will be fine doing that. Right? Why can't we expect the same for us? And everyone's like, "Oh, well, we've always been a melting pot." Well, okay, that's all fine. Actually, no, wrong. The problem is if a melting pot, everyone melts into one and you become one culture, right? And that's what we were designed to be where you would come in, English is our official language, you assimilate to our culture. That is a melting pot, 100%. what a lot of other people want, what the globalists, those who believe in that, want is a society where nothing actually melts. Where if you speak Spanish, you could speak Spanish. I can't tell you how many times, and again, nothing against the people, right? I just can't tell you, I can't tell you how entitled I think it is for someone to come in to an English-speaking country and expect them to cater to you because you don't speak English, right? I can't tell you how many customers, and a lot of times there's workarounds. Google Translate is my best friend. I just did it the other day, and I don't mind going out of my way. Where I mind is, so most of them are nice about it, say I don't speak English, can we use Google Translate? And we'll talk back and forth through Google Translate like nothing happened. Perfectly fine with that. I had one customer, though, who was so entitled, I need someone to speak Spanish. As if it was so above her to communicate. Like, I was willing to communicate through Google Translate, and it wasn't good enough for her. Right? I think there's a little bit of entitlement that comes in thinking that. And that's what the NFL was doing, mostly to the conservative movement, was, hey, we don't need you, we don't like you, we don't want you to be a part of us. Now, most of them, myself included, we're going to tune right back in and watch our team come August, right? But I think we need to know what really happened, right? So, outside of that, I also, outside of the Spanish, and they allowed it to be in Spanish, I believe, because if you read Bad Bunny's language or lyrics translated into English, bro, it wouldn't get through the FCC. His show might, if he did his show in English, they would have had to take the show off air, and the NFL would have been fined. But they allowed it in, right? And so this isn't a political issue, mainly. It's more so just the bigger issue, and was where I was having a lot of conversations this week with people, is the problem is that the NFL, much like the WWE, that I talk about on the Slap at Me community show, they're trying to focus on a global audience and make the NFL global and make football global at the expense of the main core audience, right? And so I've never been, and this is experienced by the fact that we now have 8, I believe it's 8 international games next year. With now we're going to Australia. So they removed Spain and replaced it with Australia. And I think it's the Rams and the 49ers are going to Australia, which is insane because you West Coasties are probably going to have to get up at Australia's basically a whole day ahead of you. So it's probably going to be on American TV Saturday night. And so it'd probably be a Saturday night game in America, but it's Sunday. And I don't know how that's going to work. That's crazy. Right? And this is part of the reason why I'm against the anti-globalization of the NFL, is it's forcing the core fan base to have to adjust to a country who, if you were to ask Australian people, would they rather watch footy or soccer? Would they rather watch soccer, American football, or rugby? And I promise you, American football is probably going to be lower on the list, right? The lowest one on the list. NFL. I don't mind trying to take football to foreign places. I'm not against that. But I think we can do that. Instead of having NFL games in Europe, why don't we create NFL Europe? And I know we tried it, and it failed the first time. But I think it would actually work this time. Because we're in a world now where I think there is an interest for it. So create NFL Europe. and have a team in Australia, and a team in Germany, and a team in Spain, and a team in London, and a team in any place that wants a team, right? A team in Italy. Have an NFL Europe, and then have an NFL Asia, and then have an NFL. So, with NFL expanding, like if we expanded into Canada or Mexico, I would be fine with that actually. It's where we get into changing time zones. So even even like an NFL South America, and so what if because I here's what I think would be fun. If you had an NFL Asia, and it was the Asian countries, and that includes Russia, by the way. Russia's mostly in Asia. If you had an NFL Asia, where you had teams in like China, South Korea, Japan, Russia, you probably would have several teams in Russia, several teams in China, right? But if you had like a 10-team league in Asia, Asia would also include like India and Pakistan, and you probably wouldn't play it in Pakistan, but like you would be strategic about it. There's certain countries that you probably wouldn't put teams in, but then you would say NFL Europe, you could probably have about 12 teams. And I mean NFL. You could probably put a team in Saudi and Qatar. Some of the more friendlier Middle Eastern countries would probably participate, and you could probably put them in NFL Asia. To be honest with you, because they're closer to Asia than Europe. Then Australia, I would have as part of NFL Asia, NFL Europe, though, because of the connection, but like they're practically a British colony still. And then like NFL Africa, NFL South America, right? And if you have that, and then you could have like a World Cup of football, where the cool thing could be where you take the championship team of each league, and then they play like a little tournament in like what would be so the Super Bowl's first week of February, second week of February. So say like you play a little March tournament from like that's like the whole month of March, and you take because you would have NFL. You have the NFL. You would have NFL Asia, NFL Europe, NFL Africa, and I think that's all you would really need, to be honest with you. And so you would take those 4 teams and maybe do like a 2-week tournament to see who the best league is or whatever. That's how you globalize the sport. You don't globalize the NFL by saying, hey, we're going to force the NFL fans to watch games in London at 9 a.m. No, you just build a league in London for the fans in London, right? And so a lot of this is this. I'm anti-globalization of companies. So the question then becomes, well, if you didn't watch Bad Bunnies, you're not telling me you watched that TPUSA one, did you? Actually, I did. And excuse that, I had to fix my headphones for a minute. Yes, I did. And here's why. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a Kid Rock fan, right? I didn't watch for Kid Rock. I watched for Brantley Gilbert. I love Brantley Gilbert. Gabby Barrett, love her music. And I love Lee Brice. I listened for the first 3. Could really care less about Kid Rock. I don't know Kid Rock's music all that well. Just, the only song I really know by him is Picture. And he's never going to perform that song on a Super Bowl show. Right? So it isn't like, oh, I watched it because so again, I got to speak to my team. So why do I speak to my team a lot? Why do I speak to conservatives a lot? And the answer to that is actually, I think, pretty simple. I already like it would. make zero sense for me to I already have acknowledged, but I'm conservative, so I already, by saying that, say I disagree with the liberals, and so it makes no sense for me to always critique. I want to critique my team, and when my team goes wrong, because that's the only thing it's sort of, there's a principle in Christianity. I always like to bring it back to something like this because it's something I can explain. But there's a principle in Christianity where I can't correct. So there's two different types of judgment, right? There's judgment that's meant to correct, and then there's like judgment that says, hey, what you're doing is just morally wrong. I can say to a non-Christian, hey, what you're doing is morally wrong, but I can't judge you in a way that's corrective, or like you shouldn't be doing that. And I say that this way. The principle is, well, of course they're going to act that way. That's what the desire of the heart and mind and wants to do. They're just doing what their nature tells them to do, what their nature is desiring. Of course they're going to act that way. You can't hold non-believers to the standard of what the believers, right? And so, yes, if you're not a Christian, then I don't really have a place to, like, I can't expect you to act like a Christian if you're not one, because you can't, and you won't. In that same mindset, I can't expect you to act like a conservative if you're not a conservative. But if you claim to be a conservative and you claim to be on my team, now I can hold you accountable to what you're claiming. So that's when it says, like, the principle in Christianity is, if someone claims to be a Christian, you can hold them accountable to that, right? And so I don't have to hold liberals accountable to the standard of being conservative, because they're not going to act that way. But if you claim to be conservative, so that's why I talk to my team a lot. So let me talk to my team a lot here. There's a lot of people on the conservative movement who were like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be a good old Christian event. It was never, ever promoted as a Christian alternative to the Super Bowl show. The confusion came in because, so they announced, I forgot when they announced Bad Bunny, but they announced Bad Bunny toward the beginning of the season, after the Charlie Kirk Memorial. I think they announced it, right? At sometime in that time frame, early October, or like middle September, early October, they announced Bad Bunny. And at this time, at that time, everyone was like, well, TPUSA should host, or someone should host a alternative to Bad Bunny. And so there's two Christian artists who are kind of popular in the Christian scene, Forrest Frank and Corey Ashbury, who expressed interest in creating like a Christian alternative show. And a lot of people, when TPUSA said that they were also thinking about it, assumed that because TPUSA and Forrest Frank kind of run in the same circles from a faith side, that it would be Christian. And that's where the confusion came in. But TPUSA never once promoted their alternative halftime show as a Christian event. They never once promoted it that way. They can only promote, like, they definitely promoted it as, this is going to be an all-American halftime show, right? It's going to be Americana. And that's what they kind of brought, right? Here's some interesting facts, by the way, about NFL halftime shows that I think are very interesting. There hasn't been a country music halftime show since 1994, right? There hasn't been country music in the halftime show since the Dallas Cowboys were in the Super Bowl. And even more interesting, since Jay-Z took over picking artists in 2019, since Jay-Z took over picking the artist for the halftime show since 2019. So that would have been 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 7 years. 7 Super Bowls. Since Jay-Z took over picking artists for the last 7 Super Bowls, there's only been one white artist on the stage, and his name was Eminem, which again probably doesn't promote a lot to the mainstream audience of football. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that. Here's the thing: rap music is, for the most part, the most popular form of music and culture today. So I understand why you would pick rap artist or pop artist. The problem with that is in 2025. In 2025, for the first time in about 30 years, country music was the most listened to genre of music. And they base that on album sales and streams. Country music was the most listened to genre of music. And it's not surprising that's happening. And you know how I knew this was going to eventually happen? Because Beyonce did a country album. And Post Malone started going country. You know how I knew that the tide was turning and country music was becoming popular? Because the industry puts their big popular artists from other genres into that genre. That's how I knew country music was getting popular. And so I think it's time for a country halftime show. It's the most popular genre in America right now. And I don't know about you, but I feel like the Super Bowl is the grandest American spectacle, right? And it should be Americana. It should celebrate what makes America America, right? And I don't know. If the game was held in Puerto Rico, I would have zero interest or complaint about what Bad Bunny did. But it wasn't in Puerto Rico. It was in San Francisco. Completely different cultures. Like, at least the last time they were in California and you had Eminem and you had, Snoop. It was in L.A. and it fit the L.A. vibe. It was definitely, we're going to bring in a bunch of West Coast rappers, and Eminem is friends with Dre and them. And so you bring in those guys, right? And so it fit the theme of the city it was in. You couldn't find a San Francisco artist to do a show out there. I highly doubt that people in San Francisco, and I could be wrong, are sitting around and playing Bad Bunny all the time. Like, Bad Bunny is the number one world's most popular streamer, but that's because 95% of his streams comes from Latin America. If you were to look at the the United States streaming, Bad Bunny goes from first most streamed to fifth most streamed, or sixth most streamed, with Taylor Swift ahead of him. I don't remember all the artists, but I know Taylor Swift is ahead of him. I know Morgan Wallen is ahead of him. And so he's not as popular here as he is in the rest of the world. So, anyway, back to TPUSA's, because the number one complaint with that, and if you didn't watch it, I'm not saying you have to go watch it. I think the number one complaint is that, we wanted a Christian show, and we were never going to get that. I'm sorry. It was never promoted that, and I enjoyed it. I'm just going to be honest with you, but I like country music. So, and then there's the complaint about, Kid Rock was lip syncing, which he explained on his own page, and I'm willing to believe what he said as his explanation, that it wasn't necessarily lip syncing, it was more so, and I actually agree because I went back and watched it after I saw his explanation, and it's actually obvious that he's telling the truth. What he said is when he's doing that song, because it's high paced, and this is how you know a lot of people have never been in the music industry or understand the music industry. When you do live shows, so first off, everyone lip syncs in concert because you can't use your voice 60 nights a year on a tour, and a lot of times they're doing, 60 shows in like 6 months, right? They're doing like 10 shows a month or whatever, right? When you're on tour and you're singing night after night after night, you can't use your voice at 100% every night. You're gonna experience fatigue on your voice. That's just normal. So everyone lip syncs. Some are better than others, but everyone always has the backing tracks because a lot of being on stage is more so about the performance, right? And this is what you see with a lot of pop, like female pop artists, right? Where they'll just play the backing track and they'll dance on stage, and they may not be singing into the microphone, but it's all about the performance because it's an experience, not just hearing them sing. And so Kid Rock is a performer. And so when he performs, I don't even know how to pronounce the name of the song. It's his most popular song, the one that you can't pronounce. I'm sure some could. I don't know how to say it. But he comes out. He starts with this song, and he, as he explained it, like he has his DJ so that he can breathe because he's dancing. He's flipping mic. If he had a full set as he wanted, he would have microphones for the band and everything, and he goes crazy during the song, right? And so he has his DJ say the end of lines, right? And so he'll say, like, I don't know the words, but he'll say like the first half of the line, and then the DJ finishes them while he takes a breath, right? Now, where this comes in is this probably should have been discussed in a production meeting before they filmed it. That, hey, you probably want to get some B-roll of my DJ filling in these words for me so it doesn't look stupid. It's just the sync of right. So what happened was as they showed it on camera is he would sing his line and then stop singing, but you would hear a voice, and it was just his DJ. But it was more so bad production in terms of they just didn't have any footage of anything else to hide the fact that he is breathing. But it isn't. He wasn't lip syncing, right? This is how I know if people or not understand how live performance works. And so at the end, it's definitely, I think, a thing. Look, TPUSA was never going to beat the halftime show. The reason I really wanted to talk about this, though, is what it did was I think it struck a nerve. So the resolve of TPUSA is going to be tested this year. I think the NFL is going to go even far deeper into the debauchery that was Bad Bunny. And I think they're going to pick an artist and they're going to test TPUSA. They're going to test those who turned off, said, hey, you going to do it again? We're going to put up an even more popular artist. I wouldn't even be surprised if they put up like a K-pop artist. I don't know who. I don't listen to K-pop, but I know a lot of people in the conservative circles and actually listen to K-pop. I know some people who are in that circle who are conservative but also like K-pop, and that they're going to test your resolve. Are you sure you actually want to go this way? We don't need you, right? You can't do it again. And so if I'm TPUSA, what I'm saying is, hey, we had a successful event in that we fought a battle and we fought valiantly. We got to do better next time. So if I'm them, I'm planning something bigger. I'm also planning something live because they pre-taped theirs. I would find a big artist who is willing to go live during the Super Bowl. It's in LA next year. Find an artist, plan it now. Start planning it now. Get you a year advance. And work on the production. Even if you do film this one early, or pre-tape it, start it early. Get the production value right. go over everything, put on a spectacle, right? And I think it's cool. Maybe eventually the NFL will learn to love its base again, but who knows? All right, let's go a little bit more serious, or less serious, and a little bit more fun. With we'll do this topic here. Speaking of music, so for those who don't know, independent artists kind of struggle in the streaming world, and because unless you have like a hit song and people know your name, and then you go independent. But I really want to complain about this because one of my favorite rappers, he is a Christian rapper. His name's Shai Lin. He's been rapping since like 2003. Very explicit Christian lyrics. And what I mean by that, like you'll just turn it on, and he isn't like one of these people. So one of the popular things that started happening in Christian hip hop in like 2012 was to follow rappers like Lecrae, or NF, who used the line, "Well, I'm not a Christian rapper. I'm a rapper who is Christian." And they use that as a way to sort of justify not explicitly using, they wouldn't cuss in their language, but their raps weren't, Christian in theme, right? And so I'm not negative against that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But Shai Lin took the opposite approach, and he was uber like you turn on you put on the first song on that, you go search him up, and any song you play on there is going to be up front in your face, this is Christian, right? And so, but not only that, like if you just listen to it, bro can rap, dude. I think they actually I had this stat a while ago, where it's been like a decade since I've seen this stat, but they did a most educated lyricist, in terms of they took all the lyrics of their songs, and Shai Lin was in like the top 10 of all rappers of all time. I don't know why they picked him or whatnot, but but yeah, I mean he uses a lot of big language, like really good rap schemes. He's very good at it. Like he could do secular rap if he wanted to. But my point of mentioning this, and I've seen a lot of underground independent artists sort of take the same approach that he has done. And that is a approach of, we're not going to stream our music. Right? And so he just started doing this with his latest album, which is Lyrical Theology 3. You won't find it on like Spotify or anything yet. And I'm going to explain the frustration I have with how he's doing this and what it comes off to me as. Because I have this viewpoint. I have the viewpoint that if you're in music, yes, you want to make money from it. But you also have to understand that a lot of people who listen to music now listen to it through streaming. I'm going to explain his business scheme and what he's doing. But I want to sort of tell you why this frustrates me. So, Shai Lin, he started this, what is called Lyrical Theology, and it was going to be a 3-part series. And he started this, I'm going to give you exact dates here in a minute. As soon as I can pull it up. So he started this in the Lyrical Theology, the first one, came out in 2013. April 9th, 2013. Lyrical Theology 2 came out about a year later, May 20th, 2014. And the idea was in 2015, Lyrical Theology 3 would come out and it would end the 3-part series. Well, that didn't happen. He actually took a break from music. And look, I'm not critiquing him for doing this. He took a break from music. He went and he felt called to plant churches and to preach. And look, if that's what he was called to, I'm not going to critique it. He came back and released an album in 2017, and that's the last he ever really released music. Well, back in ...2023, November 10th, 2023, we get a random drop from Shylin. Just random single dropped, right? On YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. He's streaming it. We get a random drop. And that was, I said, November 2023, right? Well, then, 2 months later, January 5th, 2024, we get another random drop. So now we're sitting here and we're thinking, we're getting a part 3. Or we're getting an album or something, right? So on his Patreon, which I wasn't a part of at the time, he announces that he's going to do Lyrical Theology Part 3. But he's only going to release it on Patreon to the paid members of his Patreon. And, right? And then he goes out and he posts a post and a video essentially saying, here's why I'm doing it this way. And that, and he basically said, because of how streaming works. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. For every stream that they get, an artist only makes, hear me out here, 0.004. I think it's 4/10 of a penny for every stream. I'm not going to sit here and act like the streaming world is perfect for the artist. It's not. And so he said he spent about $32,000 to produce this album. Whether it was from studio time or music videos, because he released 2 music videos for the 2 singles he dropped, or whatever it was, right? It cost him about $32,000 to produce the album, and that until the album is paid for. So back in the end of last year, he started selling off of Patreon on his website, and essentially said, until the album is paid for, we're not going to stream it. So he started selling, and there wasn't a set price. It was more like donation prices. So you could pay $25 for it. You could pay $50. There were some people paying $100 for that. I think it's absolutely crazy, because you're not even getting a physical album. And they were you paid and you got the digital downloads. Basically, the files were sent to you. And so you're not actually getting a physical album for, whatever. And to me, so, for example, I'll tell you how another artist I listen to, Tom McDonald, he's the guy who did the old theme song that I had here, Brother, I'm going running wild. That's Tom McDonald. At least with him, he only sells his albums online. But you actually get a physical album. So you pay $25, you get a physical copy of the album. And I'm fine with that. But if you're going to tell me go online and pay $25, $30, and all I'm going to get are digital files, bro, I'm going to be honest with you, that's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And so here's my thing. I also don't like to buy albums if I don't know if the songs on the albums are good. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because if I'm going to spend $25, it better be good music. Right? Right? So the only time I pass that up is when Tom McDonald drops an album, because I trust that Tom's music is going to be good enough, because I have 10 of his albums. I have enough history. Like, I know Shyland's going to produce good music. My fear with Lyrical Theology 3 is he's gone a little bit on some of his personal stances, and I don't want to pay $25 and essentially have like, all conservatives are bad, they're not real Christian type rap, right? Because he in one of his drops, he was starting to talk about how Christians were, especially conservative Christians were, making Christianity look bad. And I may be misrepresenting the words, but he also wrote a book in this time off in between releasing albums, called what's it called? I don't know. I have it, and I started reading it and had to put it down, because it essentially said that we needed they needed a like third, or not a third, they needed like a new revolution for black cultures, and it was very racially motivated book. It wasn't an enjoyable read for me, and he got caught out in another book for his poor theology with it. But anyway, that's above anyone else's cares, to be honest. My whole point of this is, though, you can't say we're not going to stream it. Look, if anyone wants to support you, and I'm all for, hey, can you please help me pay for the album, right? I gave my all, $32,000. We're really, like, if you guys want to help support this. But at the same time, bro, if you put out a good album, I'm going to listen to it on repeat 30, 40 times a month. And if you put out I think it's like 12 songs, right? If I listen to 12 songs 40 times a month, that's 480 plays. Now, granted, I mean, well, that's crazy. That's only about $1.92 that he made. But, so, again, it's not me making you a lot of money. But, if I listen to it there, I may be more inclined to say, you know what? I like this. I'm going to donate to you. Right? I don't want I'll just put a donation in. Right? And so, I don't know. For these underground independent artists, I don't really necessarily like the complaining about how streaming works. Streaming is the way it works now. It's unfortunate, and yes, it needs to be fixed. I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm going to tell you something. I've waited 10 years for this album. I'm fine to wait more time. Right? That's my mindset. I've waited 10 years for it, and I'm fine to wait longer. If you're not going to put it on streaming, because I don't know. Some people just don't have the funds to spend $30 on an album, right? I don't know. I'm not missing anything, in my opinion, right? So, anyway, that's just a topic I want to talk about. Let's end this before we get to questions from the Discord. Wavy D asked a question a couple weeks ago, if I felt that, with hot take culture, if everyone should have a mic. And I guess there's a popular trend going on saying that, not everyone should have a podcast or whatever. And so I want to talk about this again, because I saw there's a couple things that I want to discuss with this. In my answer there, I answered Wavy D and basically said I wouldn't want to gatekeep who could talk or not. I'm not really changing that opinion, but I do have, I guess, an addendum or amendment to that statement. I don't want to gatekeep who can speak, but I also think not everyone should go out and start a podcast. And I'm going to give a couple examples. In his example, if all you do are hot takes, spare us the time, don't start a podcast. Hot take podcasts are just absolutely stupid to me. even though they're the most popular for the most part, because the audience loves hot takes, right? And I'm not a hot take person. But if all you do is hot takes, I mean, honestly, you don't add anything to society. Probably shouldn't have a podcast. Probably shouldn't have a podcast. If you can't put together coherent thoughts, right, without ADHD kicking in, you probably shouldn't have a podcast. If you start 14 sentences before you finish one on the, if you know, I really feel, but you know, but this is why I feel that if you stutter like that, bro, you probably shouldn't have a podcast. And if you do have one, and I'm gonna softly call him out, part of the reason why it's really hard for me to listen to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast is because their co-host, James, one of their co-hosts there, James, my brother, by the way, so I think I'm free to say this without being critiqued. It's not that he's saying anything stupid. It's just it takes him forever to get to the point of what he's saying. It seems like he's not able to create I listened to he puts, what are they called, shorts out from his episodes. He does way better at promoting his podcast than I do. And he put out a short, and I listened to it. I mean, this thing was like a minute long, and it just he moved between thoughts so many times. There wasn't a single coherent thought, and it really just, it was hard to listen to. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have one. I'm fine with his podcast. I guess more so what I'm saying is because that one's actually fixable. The hot take stuff is not fixable because they're just going to do whatever the audience wants, and so right. But that's fixable because James does content that is somewhat important to the genre he's talking to, and it adds to the discussion. What he does is fixable, and what I really think he needs to do, I think a lot of it is he doesn't necessarily, and I'm not saying I don't know what he thinks about, but to me it feels like he doesn't think out his thoughts. They're just sort of coming to him in the moment, and because of that, he doesn't know how to explain it. I'm telling you something, backstage baseball, I've told you this 100,000 times, I think, between the podcasts that I do. I talk to myself a lot to work on, like, so these topics that I talked about, I've been thinking on them. I've been thinking how I'm going to say it for the last week, right? And since I plan the show, and I typically plan the shows on Monday, for the point of I have the entire week to formulate how I'm going to say what I'm going to say, so that when I say it, it doesn't sound like I'm going with. And I have moments sometimes where I jumble through words, and a lot of times it's because I lose my train of thought, or as I'm discussing something, and this has happened a lot, as I'm discussing something new, a new idea pops in that I never thought of before. So I'm similar in that, and so that's how I know it's fixable. And my advice to James would just be, hey, slow down, think about what you're going to say, maybe think it out earlier, try to make it coherent, because I'm going to be honest with you, it is one of those things that makes it hard to listen to. I'm just going to be honest. So those are the few things. I think not everyone need to, not that not everyone should. I'm not saying we should gatekeep who can do a podcast. I'm just saying there are some people who need to work at doing podcasts, and some people who shouldn't have a mic if they're just going to do hot takes. So we'll do the last segment here. This is questions from the Discord. And Wavy D is the only one that asked questions. He asked two. The first one is, what would be the perfect circumstances for DJ Wavy D to take you to the club? I think I said this on the last episode. I'm down to go. I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm not going to participate in a lot of the activities that go on there just right. But I'll go. I'll say I went. I'll check it off the list of things that I've done. But I don't drink all that often. Not a thing that I like to participate in all the time. I don't dance. I'll ride the wall. I'll walk in. I'll ride the wall. I'll make sure everyone's protected. I'd be a bad person to bring to the club with, because I just don't participate in that. It's just not my thing, right? There's not a circumstance in this world where I'll walk in to a building that's crowded with people, with dance music or EDM or club music playing super loud, and everyone's getting drunk or doing, illicit drugs, that I'm ever going to have a good time at. It's just not in me to have a good time there. And a lot of it is, I am a little bit more introverted, and that takes but I'm not like homebody, like I'm never going to go out into the world introverted. It's more of that's just not my scene. Like, I'm not even really a concert person, to be honest with you. It's just not my scene. Like, I don't mind being out in the world and, doing fun things. I don't know. It's just not my scene. I'll do it. Like, if I ever went up to where Wavy D is up there in old Connecticut, and he said, let's go to the club, I'm like, I'll do it. I'll be a bad person. You're not going to enjoy me being there, and I'm not going to enjoy being there, right? So, I don't know if I don't think there are perfect circumstances for, I'm never going to volunteer to go. It's never going to be one of those situations where I'll be like, hey man, I'm coming up for the week. Let's go to I'm never going to suggest it, right? I don't think there are perfect circumstances. I'm just going to be honest with you. His second question, and the last one, how we'll end the show, says, do you believe in the powers and in the magic of a good barber? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I saw he had posted it, and I was sort of skim reading because I was driving home, and all I saw was magic and powers. And I thought this question was going to go a completely opposite, different way. I thought we were getting into the occult. I thought we were getting into like new age magic stuff. But no, he's just, do I believe in the magic of a good barber? I do. I think a good barber can change an appearance and make, a good haircut can change your confidence. Now, with that being said, I'm the wrong person to ask this question to, because I go to Great Clips because it's cheap. I'm poor, and I just get a buzz cut anyway. I'm super, I'm super simple. Hey, what would you like? Just put the one guard on the clippers, go all the way around, buzz cut it. Don't make me look stupid. Round the neckline, shape the beard up a little bit. I'll pay you the $20 or how much ever it is, and I'll walk out the door. Right, and then that's it. That's all that. Right, that's all that I sit there for. I used to go to Sports Clips because their MVP what used to be like $35, and it was worth it. Now it's like 50 something, and it's not worth it. So Great Clips is where I go from now on. But yeah, I mean, if I could afford, because here's the thing with some of these like barbers, like if I wanted to go to like, because I've been told before you should go to a black barber, they'll treat you right. Yeah, but he charges $100, and I ain't paying $100 for a haircut, dude. Or this one down the road, that's $70. Still not paying $70. Like, I'm not paying $50. Anything more than like $20, I think is a little bit too much for what I like. If I wanted though, if I was getting like a fade or like specialty haircuts, and sure, I understand it, but I just do buzz cut, bro. I literally put the one guard on, buzz cut me, round off the neckline. That's all I want, bro. I don't need designs. I don't need none of this. So for me, I don't see the purpose in paying for, $100 for a buzz cut, bro. I just don't see it. Maybe you could convince me in the Discord chat otherwise. I don't think it's going to be possible, because the only convincing is going to be you sending me the money for the haircut. But anyway, we'll end it there. This has been the Just Yappin' podcast. I'm your boy, We Too Deep. Until next week, we will see you on the next episode.